Pokemon ROM hacks are something that I used to love when I was younger. They were fun, alternate, usually edgier or sillier adventures that passionate and talented people created. I played tons of Pokemon Brown, Pokemon Shiny Gold before Heart Gold came out, Pokemon Light Platinum, and Pokemon Flora Sky. But one thing they could never fulfill was my collector's itch. Something to display on my shelf, something to put in my Game Boy and take on the go. And sure, I could buy a flash cartridge like the EverDrive or put it on a 3DS Virtual Console, but to me it was never the same as having that beautiful physical cartridge. Now, I knew you could purchase these games from Etsy or some other online websites, but I also knew that none of the profits from these sales would go to the creators of the ROM hacks. And this also isn't exactly a legal business, so I thought I didn't want to support these people. But I saw my friend Larvesta10 on Twitter posting pictures of custom GBA games he made himself, and I asked him how he did it and thought I would give it a go. So in this video, I'll go over everything I used to make these custom carts I showed at the intro, and then I'll show you how I did it. First, we're going to need a way to flash our own GBA games. I'm using this, the GBX Cart Rewritable from Inside Gadgets. Then we'll need some games to flash to. I'll be using these fake Mother 3 cartridges. I found them very cheap on AliExpress, and they have 32 megabytes of ROM storage and 512K of save storage. I will also need some GBA shells that don't have the Mother 3 stickers and a tri-wing screwdriver to open them up. I also found these on AliExpress. You can get whatever colors that you like. I also bought some holographic sticker paper, and I have a photo printer to print onto those with. This is because all the GBA games have holo labels, and I want to replicate that even for my ROM hacks. And lastly, I'll need some cutting tools. I have an X-Acto knife to cut, and then a bench scraper and cutting board to cut on, since I don't actually have real art tools to do this with. So in this video, I'll be making cartridges for Pokemon Flora Sky and Pokemon Vega. Flora Sky is an Emerald ROM hack, and Vega is a Fire Red ROM hack. In order to do this properly, we'll need a few things on the computer as well. The software here I'm using is the Flash GBX, which lets me flash fake GBA games using the GBX Cart Rewritable, Lunar IPS for IPS patching, NUPS for UPS patching, VBA for emulator testing, HXD for hex editing, GB data for header checking, and lastly, I'll be using GIMP for photo editing. Then I will download the IPS for Vega and the UPS for Flora Sky. With all of that set, the first thing I need to do is back up my copy of Emerald, and then I'll back up my copy of Fire Red, so I have legitimate ROMs to patch these games to. Once everything is backed up, I test them on VBA to make sure the ROMs are actually running properly, and after that, I'll do the patching. For both games, I first make copies of them to patch over instead of the original ROMs that I extracted. This is so that in case anything goes wrong, I can retry with a clean base ROM. Now I'll open up NUPS and select FloraSky.gba as the ROM to patch and FloraSky.ups as the UPS file. Once it's patched, we'll test it in VBA to make sure it runs properly. Then for Vega, I'll patch it using Lunar IPS by clicking PokemonVega.ips and selecting Vega.gba as the ROM to patch. I'll also test this in VBA to make sure it works. Now we have to fix the saving. You see, Pokemon has 128K saves, but our Mother 3 games can only use 64K save time, so we have to shrink down the save file size. For Flora Sky, this is easy, because there's an IPS patch to do this, and it does it really cleanly. So I applied this IPS to Flora Sky, and we're done on that end. For Vega though, we have to do a little bit more work. I'll open up a hex editor and search for this specific string of hex numbers. Then we'll change the next 3 or 4 bytes until you get to the 24 following this string to zeros. This will trick the game into not using the second save slot. The game will say it's corrupted on every load, but it's actually fine and you can totally use it. Now we can flash the games. Once they're done, I'll just test both of them to make sure that they load properly and they save properly on the actual Mother 3 cartridges. Alright, now that we have working carts, it's time to make them pretty. So my strategy for making these in GIMP was pretty simple. I am no artist, so I use in-game and official assets to create the labels. In GIMP, I set the image size to 1417 width and 709 height and create a new image with a transparent background. Then I would open the ROM hack in VBA, and there's actually this handy feature where you can turn off different sprite layers. So I would do that to get a clean shot of the title background and then a clean shot of the title individually. For the title, it would have a ton of color around it, and I would use the fuzzy select tool to isolate it, and bam, we have a decent layout already. Now I fill in all the official Nintendo stuff like the ESRB logo, the Pokemon Company logo, the Nintendo logo, and the Nintendo seal. But Vega ended up looking a bit empty, so I went back into VBA to isolate the legendary on the title screen and added that to my image, and we're done. I think that looks pretty good. After that, I save the image, and then I save it again with a save as, because I'm just going to reuse all the placement for the official logos that I did for Flora Sky, and I'll just hide the background, the Vega logo, and the legend. Then I just do the same thing for Flora Sky, where I capture the background and logo in isolation and drop them into GIMP. I resized the background to fit the canvas, and I fit the logo to look nice, and now I think we've got a decent looking Flora Sky logo as well. With both of these done, it's time to print. For printing, I click image and I click print size in GIMP. For my canvas size, I ended up using 43mm by 23mm, pictures, and I unlinked the X and Y resolution. I think it makes a really nice size label for the GBA cartridges that I ended up buying. For the printer, I had to put this paper in by itself because the glossy side would stick to any other paper I had in there. Then I just clicked print in GIMP, and after I printed one label, I would flip the label around and use the same sheet as to not waste. I think both of these ended up looking really good. Now we just have to cut the sticker paper in place and place them on their proper game cartridges. So first, I grab one of the Mother 3 carts and confirm which game I've got in it. Then I just unscrew it and swap it into the color shell I want. Next up is cutting, which is pretty difficult for me because I both don't have the proper tools and I'm also just not good with the X-Acto knife. I found the best way was to lay the X-Acto knife flat and cut it directly into the paper. After I cut it 4 times, all I had to do was peel and place. It took extra time and placed it properly because the adhesive on this sticker paper is really strong. I have to repeat the process for Flora Sky here, but it's as easy as cut, slice, 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 peel, and place. With that, I think we've got 2 pretty good looking GBA games. I know they're not perfect, but it's the best I could do, and hopefully when I make more of these, I will improve. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. I want to do a big shout out to all of my channel members. Thank you guys so much. Without your support, I couldn't be producing as many videos as I am, and I couldn't be streaming as often as I am. So it really means a lot to me. And special shout out to ShadowBliss56 and RLIZT, my Bliss God tier members. Your generosity is unbelievable. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you all next video.